It's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. I'm so excited. I'm here for a cosmic conversation with Nura, and it's telling everybody I am here. Yes, yes. Hey, Patty, so nice to see you. And Chrysula. Yes, yes. Hopefully, I'll see you at my workshop on Sunday. Yes, I'm having a workshop about the nodes, and we're going to be focused more on a spiritual. How do we move through this time? Yes, yes. Let me see. Oh, there's Nora. Hey, hey. Hi, Susie. Hi, Adrian. Nice to see you. Okay, let me invite you. Let's see. How do I do this? Nora. Hi, Tiffany. So good to see you. There you
There we
are.
go.
Hi. It,
Hello. How
it's
are
wonderful.
you?
I'm good. It's wonderful to see you again.
It is. Happy Venus Day. And hey, look, I think we're both getting the memo of purple.
Yeah. I just, yeah, the color just felt so good for today. With the moon in Gemini. I don't know
Maybe for a
why.
conversation.
Or maybe it's a conversation. Does purple have something to do with Imbolc? Hopefully I said that right.
Imbolc. But I
Imbolc.
just always feel it's like Aquarius energy, but also the Pisces North Node. I'm just feeling really called to purple, which is not a color I'm usually called to. So I just know that there's something being downloaded.
Yes. Something about our own inner royalty or something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Well,
Yes.
why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Okay, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Nura Rachelle, an astrologer, um, intuitive. I call myself an integrative astrologer because, like so many people in our field, I'm a forever student. Anything I learn gets added into my practice. So, I also work with yoga and meditation, wellness, and recently studying Vedic astrology as well. I have a certification in human design. I just love to learn. There's basically an obsession. So I'm very grateful to be in this field where that is called for and appreciated.
Absolutely. Now, what are your sun, moon, and rising?
Sag Sun, Aquarius Moon, and Taurus Rising.
Oh, we've got the Taurus connection. I love it. Yes, you
Yes.
do look like a Taurus rising. Where's your Venus?
Scorpio.
Ooh, you've got that. Yes, you got the beautiful eyes, mysterious,
Oh,
sexy. I hope you don't find that offensive, but
I'm flattered. Thank you.
yes. How
Hmm.
are you feeling about? Well, we're good. This is how this goes. Where I've got a lot of air. I've got Venus and Mars and Gemini, and then Jupiter and Uranus in Libra. So like I get interested in something and then want to learn more about
Oh
it.
my
So
goodness.
how are you feeling about Venus retrograde being a Taurus rising? Asking for a friend.
Yes. Yeah,
It's a
right.
Taurus
I
sun.
know. I personally just love retrogrades of
Ah,
any kind. I'm loving the Mars retrograde. I really noticed the shift of the Jupiter stationing direct, though, I'll have to say. That has felt really nice because it's also my Jupiter return, late degrees Taurus, but still in that zone and just feeling like, okay, what else is new? Like, there's just always something new, right? But it feels, whenever there's a retrograde, it feels like an allowance to pause or slow down. And absolutely, the Taurus in me loves that. How do you feel about it?
they are a double-edged sword. So for everyone right now, Mars, the planet of action, drive, and assertion, is retrograde. And as a Cancer rising, it's in the sign of Cancer. I've totally embraced that, using this as a time to slow down, go within, not pressuring myself to get a lot of stuff done. But I've noticed I've been frustrated or irritated more, more easily, and I'm trying my best not to get any of these diseases that are going around, because your first house, when a planet is in the sign of your that you're ascendant, it's got a physical body vitality thing.
Hmm.
And so I'm trying not to get any of these bird flus or whatever else is going around. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a time to slow down, but seeing others wilding out is has been something.
Yeah, you get to hold the space a little bit and
Hmm. But
watch where
I
you eat, I
always like
guess.
find something that was wrong or that can be fixed or it can be done better with the retrograde. So they're a blessing, sometimes in disguise, but yeah, because we have to do
Yeah.
things a
Yeah,
couple
we
of
get to
times.
just take that extra time. And absolutely, I think it's a humbling time more than anything. And we have to let go of our ego. And I think at this point, I'm just used to that. It's like it's a constant. I'm just, oh, ego death every other day. So, not to say I've mastered it by any means, but it's almost a running joke with the universe at this point, you know?
Yes. Where's your Mars?
Aries in the 12th.
Ah,
So, there's a lot of
ah.
surrender that has to happen.
Oh, wow. So I love that you're finding this Mars retrograde a gift. Because there's a square intention for you, and with it in your 12th house and covering all sorts of things.
Oh my
Mm,
goodness.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and then there was another question that came up. I can't remember. I can't remember. Oh, Vedic. What? Okay, so you're studying Vedic astrology, so Eastern versus Western astrology. What are some of the big takeaways that have helped? Are there just a couple that have
Oh my
helped
gosh.
really
Yeah,
enhance your astrology practice?
absolutely. I would say my number one favorite thing that I'm learning about are the divisional charts. So there are quite a few that are usually used. One of them, the most popular, is the Navamsha, it's called. And it's basically like a destiny chart. You know, it means a lot more things than that. But I, in my Western practice, I was trying to extract all of that from the natal chart, which I do think you can in a lot of beautiful and powerful ways. But to find out that there was a whole chart, a division of your natal chart that was just about destiny, and that typically kicks in after around age 40, it really sat with me. I was like, oh, okay, so now so many other things make sense. I'm so grateful that I have clients that are kind of willing to go there with me, a few that have been allowing me to experiment and share these extra things with them, because as I'm sure you know, one of the biggest differences between Vedic and Western astrology is the signs. You know, are we using tropical zodiac or sidereal? And there's speaking of ego death, there's a great attachment to certain sign orientations that when all of a sudden you're looking at it from that sidereal perspective, you're like, wait, oh, moon in Capricorn instead of moon in Aquarius? What does that mean? What could that look like? Um, and that really brings in a whole other discussion that I talk a lot about with Kaylin Castell from the Astro Priestesses. So she's done a lot of work on this as well. But how do the constellations actually influence the signs? So, how are they actually one system? But of course, like all of the different astrologies, we're just looking at it through a different lens to kind of get to the same place. But anyway, so there's all of these different percolations happening and integrations, but also very specific techniques that are immediately useful, which I just love. And I'm just so grateful that I have clients who are willing to go there with me and explore.
Oh, wow. I love that. Oh, I might have to reach out to you to learn something more about my chart through that lens. That's fantastic. Yes. So tell us about how did you pronounce it? Embolic?
Imbolc, Imbolc, yeah.
Imbolc. Yes.
Hmm. And you have the words, like the different syllables right. If you think about where it comes from, it's umbilical cord. Yeah, and so it has that connection with the mother and the child and the baby and themes of fertility. And it really feels like that. You know, we get this visual depending on where you live in the world. I know it's covered in snow for my mom up in Canada, but I'm here in Arizona and it's bright, sunny blue skies and wispy clouds. And wherever you are, you'll experience the seasons differently. But this Imbolc time is really special because we're at that midpoint time between the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and the spring equinox. And we're getting this sense of rebirth, this sense of hope and renewal. And it does feel like that giving birth or preparing in a way to give birth perhaps to a new idea or some seed of potential for the future.
Mm. I love that. And it's what's the time period for this? It's a holiday. Is it a what would you call it? A
Yeah.
holiday? I mean, talk to me like I know very little about it.
Yeah. So, depending on the tradition that you're looking at it from, I'm looking at it from a Celtic tradition, and they are based on the holy cross of the year, the wheel of the year. So the four, cardinal points, but then also the four intermediary fixed points. So it's always when the sun is at 15 degrees of all of the fixed signs creates these other 4 points in the year. And it's just another time to really mark it. So it is often celebrated around February 1st, 2nd, depending on where you are, just to kind of say, oh, this is every year it's around this time. It's kind of like Groundhog's
Yeah.
Day. But if you're really specific, it's usually on February 4th or 5th, depending on when we get the sun at that 15 degrees Aquarius mark. And it's really that taking a pause. What were the seeds that were planted in the Capricorn solstice moment? And it's kind of similar to a new moon where it starts to settle inward and we're not really sure what it's all about. And then halfway to that spring equinox point where we're ready to start taking that action. And I think the transits of this year are really fascinating that in like end of March, April, May, things start to move faster ahead. We can take a lot more action, but this is like that middle point because we've done a lot of the more internal intuitive work, and we still will with the rest of Aquarius season and Pisces, but we get to refine a little bit. We get to kind of similar to that crescent moon energy. We get to kind of go out and play around with things a little bit. So it's kind of like this very slow coming out.
And Pale Sala says lunar Imbolc equals new moon Aquarius equals lunar New Year. So that's for this year specifically, right? They all kind of came together at the same time.
Yeah, the new moon in Aquarius will always be at a different degree every year, but they do this year. It's kind of nice how they came around the same time. January 29th is
Yeah.
the new moon, and then also in the Chinese astrology system, they have the Chinese Lunar New Year, and now we're in the year of the Yin Wood Snake. So it was really powerful. Like this whole past week, we had so many endings and beginnings kind of clustering in all together. So yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, a great year to shed old skin, shed old stories. Let me see if there's any other comments here before we go on that
Yeah,
I want
Sarah
to.
mentioned it's connected to the goddess Brid or Brigid, as I know her. And I do love how it seems that every culture around the world has some way of marking these times, which is really beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, well, they're world points. So, and I'm actually giving a talk for Kepler College about world points, which are degrees of significance. And it's obviously the cardinal points, 0 of cardinal signs, but also 22 and a half, and then 15 of fixed signs and 7.5 of mutable signs. So these
Mhm.
times like May Day and like, can you just go through what is so we know Imbolc is about when the sun is at 15 Aquarius,
Mhm.
that world point where it's got significance for all of us around the world. Do you know what the name of the May one is? May 15th? Or
So
not
that
May
will be at,
15th,
yeah, so it's usually
Taurus.
in the first couple days of May and it's Beltane.
Beltane.
And then in the Leo season, it's Lunasa, and there's a few different names for them. And then Samhain or Halloween
Yeah.
time in the Scorpio time. So these are all, honestly, these are all of my favorite holidays, I think, these kind of intermediary times, because they're very, it's almost like we're in the height of the season, but with fixed signs, it's so fascinating because we're almost in like the height of change. Like these are
Mhm.
when we're in that middle point of thinking about transitioning, which I know is more associated with mutable signs in a general sense, but I tend to feel them really at these cross quarter markers.
Ah, okay. Because yeah, you're between the two seasons, so it's like almost like there's an internal. Is it a pull both ways or a push in or does that
Yeah,
make
it
sense?
feels like, well, if you think about the quality of the light, even,
Hmm.
like there's maybe an hour more of light now than there was a month and a half ago. And we are kind of in that middle place. So even just tuning into the story of the light and then the energy that we have available, it just feels like, and maybe this is especially true right now with the moon in Gemini and Jupiter Gemini, and then just Aquarius season, it's like the winds of change are all really here, but we know that there's still awaiting. It's like how to know that change is coming, but still being patient, which I think interestingly ties together the retrograde energy as well.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Ah, so why don't you give us some keys about, well, how you see Aquarius season or the Aquarius energy, and it can be throw in all of your Vedic and whatever, and then related to this timing.
Sure, sure. Something that is really standing out to me right now is the Jupiter direct with
Mm.
this Imbolc and the this, so I've already mentioned it, but this burgeoning hope, this desire for expansion, and ultimately planting the seeds for change. So what is it that we want to learn about, and how might we be able to look at our resources in a different way? This is something that I'm always really interested in helping people to figure out about themselves, or how can I find my resources in my chart, or where do I look for the information that I know is really important to me. And the reason I think having a connection with these holy points of the year is so important is just because it gives you that chance to say, hey, universe, hey, seasonal cycles, hey, gods and goddesses of my experience. Like, I want you to know that I see you and I'm here and I'm listening, and what wisdom do you have for me? It's just a way to really, I think, honor the the clues, the signs, the mystery, and just have your small way of being a part in it. So it'll definitely present differently for everybody depending on where they have this point in their
Oh.
chart. So that is something I think really important to notice. And also the fact that it's the same every year, right?
Hmm.
When it's in bulk, you're going to have the sun in the house where it is right now every year. And so there are going to be those like markers of growth, perhaps. We come back every year to Aquarius season, and it's like, okay, well, what have I learned? Who are the communities that I've connected with? How have I collaborated? Or like, what are the structures that I've been engaged with? And what about that will stay the same as I continue with the rest of the season? What will change? And so there's just a lot of reflection.
I love that. Is this something you want to go through the houses where 15 Aquarius is? Would that be helpful for
Sure.
people? And any maybe
Yeah.
journal prompts or what have
Yeah.
you?
That would be really fun. So let's start with the first house. If we tune into Aquarius in the body, well, how are you doing if you've got Aquarius in your first house? You've got Pluto there too. There's a lot happening in Aquarius. And this was actually, I think it was the first year that we had um, the sun
Yeah.
conjunct
It
Pluto.
was the first time we've had the sun
Yeah,
conjunct Pluto in the sign of Aquarius in 250
yeah.
approximately years. Back then, the time of the French Revolution, the Constitution, all that kind of stuff. One thing that was really notable is the inauguration,
Hmm.
the sun, Pluto, and Aquarius, and in the front row were the five tech billionaires. And Aquarius rules has associations with technology, and AI is a big story of Pluto and Aquarius.
Yeah. And that, especially that we had that almost like officially, it feels like we've been kind of holding our breath with the back and forth of Pluto's
Mm-hmm.
retrograde last
Mm-hmm.
year and then into this year. Feels like this is the first year where we're like, okay, we've already been anticipating this, but here we are. So for the people with Aquarius in their first house, what have you been anticipating in your body? Like, what are perhaps the changes that you've already felt, okay, I'm ready to shift something. I'm ready to awaken something. I always get this visual of energy either dispersing, like resources trying to find a new way to land, or like taking it from one place and putting it somewhere else. This like reallocation of resources, I think, is really Aquarian. And so in the first house, if we're thinking health, perhaps reallocating resources of how you're eating or even just your time. Aquarius, though it has that Uranian modern rulership, there's still that Saturnian function of structure and discipline and really tuning into like, what do I actually need? What will help me tomorrow? That's a good question to ask where we have Aquarius. And where can I maybe think outside the box? So then if we tune into Aquarius in the second house, resources in a very literal sense, whether that's money, time, and how might those be connected to your community? Because even though we can be talking about these personal houses,
Mm-hmm.
like the first, everything really under in the bottom half of the chart is very personal, but wherever Aquarius is, there's always going to be a collective connection. So I think of this blending, this merging of, okay, how are my personal resources impacted or influenced by the collective, and how can I influence it rather than only be influenced by it?
Mm.
And I think all of this is, I think, coming from Pluto there as well, because we can't really talk about the sun being in Aquarius, for the next 20 years without also talking about Pluto being there.
Exactly. And
Right.
this is Capricorn. So Capricorn risings would have this Imbolc
Mm-hmm.
degree of 15 Aquarius in their second
Mm-hmm.
house.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
very interesting. And
And,
okay.
and I think it'll be really great to already be making a practice of this, like looking at it every year, like how am I growing in this one specific area? Because it's going to be the same. And then if you tune into the third house, what am I learning? The third house is like insatiable curiosity and learning and connecting and meeting people. And so this is a great time if you've got Aquarius in your third house. This, go and connect with people that you're interested in learning from, but hopefully information that's empowering to you, and having that awareness of like, is my attention, is it helping me to feel empowered, or is it draining my power? Is it distracting me?
I love that. And so that would be Sagittarius. And now that Jupiter is, or Sagittarius rising,
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter is direct, which rules Sagittarius. If you felt stymied, like, oh, you might notice you have this new, like zest again to do your thing, which is,
Yeah. And perhaps
yeah.
even more like support from other people too, if
Uh-huh.
you've got the Jupiter and Gemini on the other side in the
Yeah.
seventh house, right?
Absolutely need to be engaging with others to, yeah. And others
Mm-hmm.
with different viewpoints, I think, is a good thing too, to see what they're thinking and saying and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Definitely. As a Sag Sun, I can just say, as a sidebar, I almost make it a point because I know the algorithm follows us,
yeah.
and then it just like gives us more of what we've already liked. So sometimes I'll like intentionally go out of my way and like things that I actually don't like, but just to stay in the loop of that conversation so that it will show me more things. I'm sure my algorithm has no idea who I really am because there's just so much in there, because I don't never want to like pigeonhole myself to one worldview. And so I think that's something that the Jupiter and Gemini is kind of inviting for all of us
Yes.
in a general sense.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this today about how the algorithm feeds us more of what we like.
Mhm.
And yesterday we had Neptune, the planet of illusions and delusions, conjunct the North Node, just like amplifying it like so much. So it's good to keep in mind or read sources or what have you. That's such great wisdom about things that are not, yeah, that you don't necessarily believe, but understanding the root of what some other people feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and somebody had mentioned here, yeah, I am talking about them in a whole sign, whole house kind of lens. So um, that's really just for the ease of this. I use actually the whole sign system in Vedic astrology, but in my Western practice, I use quadrant house systems. I've kind of adopted the idea that you just use the house system according to the technique that you were taught so that you're remaining true to the lineage and why it works from that perspective of that lineage. And then you can play, so you learn the rules so that you can break them graciously.
Yes. What house systems do you use for what?
So whenever I'm doing any kind of Vedic exploration, it's equal house whole sign system, but I use porphyry often because I was trained in evolutionary
Okay.
astrology, and then also Regiomontanus because I was trained in orrery from the school of traditional astrology, which I really really love.
We both
Um,
did that school,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was really awesome. And so if I'm answering an orrery question, I'm going with that house system. If I'm just looking at someone who wants to understand life purpose or that sort of thing, I'm using porphyry. And for the people who come to me having already studied their chart and they're like, I only look at my chart in Placidus, I'm like, okay, we're going to look at your house in Placidus. We're going to look at your chart and whatever is your house system, because I think we can get a lot of the same information from all of the
Mhm.
different systems. But I just wanted to bring that in because somebody had
Yeah. Oh, and
brought
there's
that
a
in
question. Do
through
you use
comments.
15 planets or does that say 15-degree planets or I don't understand the question. Do you have 15? Oh,
Uh,
do you have 15-degree planets? I think
mm.
someone's asking you. Are any of your planets in your chart at 15 degrees approximately?
Actually, not in the Western system, no, but in the Vedic system, yes. So
Ah.
that's just more mind trips to offer you. But let's go back. I don't want the Scorpio risings. I think it would be to feel like we're blocking them out of our talk through the houses. So let's
Oh
go
yeah,
through all
yeah.
of those
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. I go transit.
I know it's so
Tangent.
easy to just like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. Okay,
Okay,
but I'll do
fourth
it real
house.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fourth house, I think of it as an ancestral awakening. And so these themes that I'm saying, you could think about them as they're pertaining right now, with the sun illuminating in that part of the chart, but also for life. This is always true. It's always part of you. It's just what is being illuminated right now. What is the sun, the light of our spirit, our attention, wanting us to put our attention on? So, looking at your home life, your inner child, conversations, bringing them, making sure they have a seat at the table kind of thing. And especially for a Scorpio rising, who would probably be a very deep soul anyway, really going deep, retrieving that buried treasure. It's a good time.
Mm.
And then if we look
So
at
healing some childhood stuff too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like remembering nostalgia. And actually, this is a fun fact that you may or may not know, that Aquarius is associated with long-term memory in all directions. So
Oh.
past, present, future. And so for that reason, I often call Aquarius the archetype of the Akashic record keeper. So there's a lot that can be remembered. And I think it's that kind of remembering where you're not sure why you remember it. You don't know
Mhm.
why you know it. It's not always provable by external factors, but it's just that wisdom that's carried within you. So I think, especially if you've got Aquarius in the root of your chart, that would be something that's probably very true for you. And then if we look at Aquarius in the fifth house, the house of creativity and children and play, passion, romance, all the fun things of life, it's a good month to have some fun. So, who are your people? Have a party, unless you're very like introverted Libra rising, I suppose, but I don't see very many of those. I don't know about you.
Yeah, most Libra risings that
Yeah.
I know are very social. Yes. So they're
Yeah.
gonna love, yeah, this they may like be like, I just want to have people over this weekend, or I want to get together with
Yeah.
or go out on a date or da 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 or like really make my Valentine's Day really special or something like that maybe is coming up within.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
love that you
or do
brought that.
something about social justice,
Hmm.
or like have something to say about that. Maybe some like real big passion is stirring within a Libra rising about bringing fairness, equality, balance, because yeah, it's the fifth house. It's also the house of self-expression.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 And this is something that I learned from the Vedic system is that the fifth house is also a house of learning and
Mm.
seeking knowledge, seeking education. And I that makes so much sense for me because I'm like, learning is fun. So I don't know. That just hit for me immediately. I was like, of course it is. So all of the air signs really are having a lot of air activity right now. It is a good time to just be in conversation as you are right now as well, Celeste. I know this is you're so good at this. You're having conversations all the time. So
Yeah, I do. Okay.
okay, so if we
That's all
look
my
at
air. I like talking, especially about
yeah,
astrology.
yeah.
Hmm.
Ah.
Yes.
If we look at Aquarius in the sixth house, this is a good time, I think, to just clear out the clutter of your life, of your body, of your schedule. You know, what can you just almost come a little bit more to a point of stillness, especially since it's that midpoint, you know, like the sixth house is a lot of our schedules and even the chores of life. And it's just really, how can you make that more simple for yourself? More aligned with what you know now, I think, because sometimes we can get on repeat mode, repetition mode, and we're just doing the same things. And sometimes in the fixed seasons, though the fixed signs are associated with sustainability, we're also the most challenged to make changes, I find,
Oh,
in with the
absolutely.
fixed signs.
Although
Yeah.
Uranus going through Taurus kind of
Yeah.
stirred that up. But yeah, and so this would be a Virgo rising, and how so important because this energy can get a little anxious, Virgo risings, and then this, I think this Imbolc degree can help you. Okay, there's so much confusion and chaos and
Mhm.
speculation about what is going on behind the scenes that this could be a good time for a step back. Are you
Mhm.
taking care of yourself? Because the sixth house is also the house of health and things that
Mhm.
go wrong with your health, and having an air sign there like is hyper focusing on things or over analyzing things, and how can you just like use this to trust some inner wisdom about tuning
Mhm.
out some of the noise. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And actually, that brought to mind the conjunction between Mercury and the Sun that's coming up
Oh, it's
within like,
Sunday.
yeah, it's this weekend. So
Super Bowl Sunday.
oh gosh, are there going to be any tech problems or weird things? Or,
I
yeah, I find that
have a whole like I've
yeah.
come up with so much about what could be going on because Uranus is in the 10th house. I'm going to do a video about it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that'll be really fascinating to tune into. So especially that element of mindset and intuition and that reset point with any of the conjunctions with the sun, it's like there's a whole way of thinking that is
Hmm.
being burned away.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah,
Hmm.
so Sunday is a really good time to do this. Take extra time to think about these prompts and questions and whatnot in your life because Mercury's at the end of its cycle where it's like dying and limping along, and then it's going to meet the sun on Sunday, burn off old stories, and have a fresh new start.
Yeah, and so you combine that with this Imbolc energy, this new year with the wood snake, it and the wood piece of it, I think having a really strong affinity with structuring as well and restructuring and looking at the scaffolding of everything that we're creating, it's like we could have had these ideas, maybe even seeded from the last Sun Mercury conjunction, but when Mercury was in the inferior conjunction position, where maybe by this point we're actually getting a new view of it, and, maybe a little bit more of an intuitive clarity perhaps of, okay, this is how the structure actually needs to be, and just giving ourselves that space to make those changes. And so if we tune into it from the seventh house perspective, so that's the Leo risings, that is relational change, and tuning into this, how are the structures of my relationships changing? How are the dynamics changing? How are the conversations changing? Will I allow myself to ask a different kind of question than I usually ask? Or maybe even allow myself to explore a topic that I don't usually talk about, kind of similar to what we were mentioning with the Jupiter and Gemini elements. And I think that's pretty similar as well to if you have Aquarius in the eighth house, but a little deeper. We're going into some deep soul stuff when we're talking about the eighth house. And these are usually those more very personal, maybe private, very sacred conversations that we have with ourselves. So they can still occur with people, but it's usually after you've spent a little time in the soul cave on your own with the eighth
Yes, I'm
house.
a Cancer rising, and I've really been feeling this.
Yeah, what's coming up for you if you want to share?
Yeah, just well, I see the eighth house as a house of shadows, things about us we'd rather disown. And it's just like some with Mars retrograde, some frustrations as someone who considers themselves a nice person. Uh, Sometimes things come up to your conscious attention. Like I got
Mhm.
so frustrated with my dog yesterday, I called him an unkind thing about
Poor dog.
he's lacking in, you see these dogs on Instagram who like go get the newspaper, go save their owner after chaos. This one, I can't even get to bring his ball for me to put treats in. So anyway, I just got frustrated with it. It is a lack of brilliance yesterday. That's a lighthearted kind of thing, but yeah, and yeah, and like trying to like through my lens thinking because I've got this whole thing I'm thinking is coming up and am I seeing things clearly or is my third eye blind? I'm like having this deep conversation with myself. How much are my belief systems that maybe I need to shed, keeping my thought processes that things are one way and will they show themselves in a different way? So that's something I've been thinking about the last couple of days. I don't know
That's
if that makes
beautiful.
sense.
Yeah, it does. And I was seeing these images of like how Cancer and Aquarius may or may not always be like doing a very similar thing. Cancer's somewhere in the ocean by the shore, and Aquarius is up in the clouds. And when you get that chance to kind of let those parts of yourself commingle, through the transits, what happens? It feels like a very powerful alchemy, which you've alluded to. That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So trying to have an open mind.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And something
Yeah.
I noticed too with Aquarius, and this is in general, is there's a lot of trust and faith in humanity. Like when I think of my Aquarian friends, wherever the placement is in their chart, but usually in the personal planets,
Yeah.
they can just say what they think and they're really not worrying if I'm going to take it the wrong
Yeah.
way. And I love that. So it shows me that they actually have a lot of trust in my evolution of like being able to take it the right way. So I feel like it could bring a lot of liberation to how we're speaking, to just feel less afraid to
Mhm.
share ourselves because we trust, oh, maybe they're going to give me the benefit of the doubt. They're going to take it the right way, or it's going to just become a more dynamic conversation rather than feeling like I have to people please or something like that, which I think we need. Like there's been an energy for the past few years, I think, especially since 2020 when, we had all of the great conjunction in Aquarius and things like that, where it- we've just been kind of doing this weird dance with censorship and all of that kind of stuff, you know? And I think especially for the creative people, there's been a bit of a closing down or a bit of a like, should I
Mhm.
say this? Am I safe to say this? Or am I going to be canceled? Or, what's going to happen? But I feel like Aquarius is an energy that will help us in a way to rise above that.
Yeah, I keep telling myself to shut up so I don't wind up in El Salvador. They come for the witches. But I can't. I'm like Uranus is conjunct by IC in Libra, so in an air sign. So I feel like, yeah.
Oh, you're here to shake it up. Yeah. You don't need to stay quiet. Please, please share it all. We want to hear it.
And if people haven't seen what the U.S. signed with El Salvador, it will curl your hair. They want to send American citizens
Yeah.
and migrate. I mean, let's not even go down that road, but
Yeah.
to the El Salvador prisons.
Yeah. Well, it brings up a really important point in all of this, which I think this is good segue maybe to the ninth house,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like our righteous beliefs or the causes. Aquarius is always going to point a little bit to the causes that we believe in, the causes that
Mm-hmm.
we're likely to speak up about. And especially with this Mercury Sun conjunction, there could be a new way that we're speaking up about said
Mm-hmm.
causes, and perhaps with a little bit more clarity and a little bit more confidence. Um, and that fearlessness. And so especially in the ninth house, I think that's important. We are social beings, and our flow is so much more improved when we just feel safe to
Mm-hmm.
speak, safe to share, and even if
Mm-hmm.
we're aware that other people don't agree. So it's also, I think, a skill set, to talk about things that are sensitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to bring that inclusive energy to the conversation so that people feel like they can contribute even if there's disagreement. And I think that's a beautiful skill set that if you have strong Aquarius represented in your
Mm-hmm.
chart, this is a time where I think we're being really empowered to do that.
Yes, and we can disagree without getting nasty with each other or yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
No, although
Yeah.
sometimes we have to,
Oh
really
my gosh.
stride it.
And
And so that would
somebody,
be Gemini risings have this in their ninth house. Jupiter's
mhm,
going direct. So if you're a Gemini rising, and oh my God, you may just really feel like diving into something new
mhm.
or, yeah, really
And there's a really funny
philosophizing
comment
about.
here.
Mm,
She says, I think it's Ali or Ale.
yeah.
Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. La Morena, I'm guessing Ale. I think fire signs don't give a fuck. They are canceled. I think that's probably true.
Well, that's my Aries
Yeah.
moon. Get me into trouble.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that we all get to learn a little bit more from.
Yeah,
Um,
it's good
yeah.
trouble, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So 10th
That
house.
freedom.
Hmm.
Okay, so 10th house. If you've got Aquarius in your 10th house, this I think is always a time to be seen in a general sense. So here are our Taurus risings. You've got to be seen in a lot more of a way. And I think there's an empowerment potential long term, really for the next 20 years with Pluto there. But you get these little snippets, whenever we have a transit, a little snippet of time according to that planet that's there. So when it's the sun, it's a month. When it's the moon, it's 2.5 days. When, all the planets have their amounts of time there, but they're all drawing our attention to this special area of life that, especially while Pluto is there long term, it might connect us more with our soul desires, more of our soul urges. So if you've got Aquarius in your 10th house, there's a soul urge around what you are putting out into the world, what you want to contribute to society, what do you want to say, how do you want to empower people. And one of my favorite Pluto Aquarius statements has just been power to the people. And I'm here for that. So I think that's also that's true for everyone, wherever you have Aquarius.
Ah, I love that. Hmm.
And then 11th house
So that
is,
would be
that's,
Taurus risings. It's
mhm,
got a 10th house flavor
mhm,
of you may be considering your calling, your career, your
Yeah,
yeah, your life.
and allowing for the changes too wherever all
Mhm.
of this is happening because it's air. Air is
Mhm.
not, even when we're talking about fixed air, of Aquarius, it's not staying the same. It's definitely changing. It's like perpetual change, if you
Yeah.
will. I think we're pretty used to that by this point. It's like every other month there's a new phone that comes out, there's a new development with AI systems and learning models and robots. Like we're just kind of used to it at this point. There's different talk of aliens, and like it's not, it almost feels like it's not even novel anymore, and that's very Aquarian. We've become used to it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that getting used to constant change and then not getting jaded by it,
Uh-huh.
which
And
is
there's this
interesting.
new show on Hulu called Paradise,
Mm.
which is so good. And you think it's going to be just this thriller about a Secret Service guy and a president. And it takes a turn to the left and it's very Uranian. So I recommend people, at least if you have Hulu, check out the first episode and see if you're interested because the ending is like, what? Say what? And then well, I'm only on the second
Okay.
episode, but it's really interesting and Uranian. Oh, Savantra wants to know, can we touch back on the seventh house? Because we went pretty quickly through Leo rising. And a Leo rising is not going to put up with us going quickly through their side.
Yes, yes. Sorry, Leo risings. So, okay. So the seventh house, there's always the essence of shining the light on the other person, whoever the other person is, whoever the other is in your sphere. It could be learning from people, it could be listening to them. It's not always something that you have to give them, but it could also be something to receive from them as well. And I always love to tune into that opposition actually of the sun and then Leo and Aquarius. I think of Leo as that center in the middle of the sun glyph, and then Aquarius is almost like the circle around it. It's kind of how I feel about it. And the
Absolutely. The
Aquarius,
performer in the
yeah,
audience.
yeah, and the Aquarius has this affinity to almost shine a light back in this beautiful reflection. And I think for that reason, this is why Aquarius is so naturally gifted with energy healing and kind of picking things up and reflecting things back to people in the way that they need it. But it's also like, if anybody has studied Reiki, when you give a healing, you receive a healing, right?
Mhm.
So I think there's that beautiful reciprocal nature between Leo and Aquarius. And so if you're Leo rising or if you're Aquarius rising, you've got that kind of gift of like giving, receiving. How are we kind of healing together, which is really beautiful.
I love that. And so Pluto is opposing Leo's. So all sorts of stuff are being unearthed about how you relate to the other. So
Mhm.
really good time to think about what have you learned about how what people have reflected back to you or brought to your conscious attention, especially if it was an uncomfortable. Yeah. And I have a big thing. It's so interesting. I'm going to bring this in about there were protests across the country in all the capitals. And there was this one site was saying, oh, I don't know. There's no official organizer to make sure it's like it's it, it's uh it's legit or whatever. And it's like it was a hashtag and it's Pluto in Aquarius. We don't need the Leo to tell us what to do, where to look. The crowd, the people are feeling more empowered. And I think not like us, we're going to see something on Sunday that illustrates
Mm,
that point.
mm,
We'll see
mm,
at the Super
mhm,
Bowl when Kendrick Lamar sings, does his
mhm.
set. We'll see if I'm
Oh,
right.
yeah. I feel like always at this point, there's always something that's happening. And I think that's actually brilliant to bring that in because we're always talking about the opposite archetype with any archetype.
Mhm.
So the audience and the crowd, the Aquarius, is required for the Leo to also, get to be that one that's shining. But it feels like it's also, there's this, with Pluto, there's this subversive quality. Like, I'm coming in, I'm going to show you something that you didn't expect. Maybe secrets will be revealed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really fascinating. And that I think is also quite similar to, having Aquarius in the 11th house, similar to the 7th, because this is also a relational house.
Mm-hmm.
So the third, 7th, and 11th, these are big times for empowerment around conversation and relationship. But so the 11th house Aquarius, this would be our Aries risings. And that component of literally who are the community, the people that you're connected with, the causes that are important to you. I think also because Aries is such a warrior, what is the hill that you would die on? And I
Mm-hmm.
say that it's a little dramatic sounding, but where would you where would you put your stake in the ground? And I think especially with the sort of floating energy that we've been working with, there's a lot of Pisces, and there will continue to be a lot of Pisces for this next year and a half. But it feels important to find those few things that we can kind of stake in, settle in, while everything else is moving. And that's,
Yeah.
you know,
I pulled Dia de los Muertos for Aries this week at the Astro and the
um,
Oracle program. So, what hill would you die on, Aries? Really speaks to that energy.
mhm,
Ah,
yeah,
about for what Aries are feeling about, yeah, how they can use their fire to make change.
hmm,
And what actions they want to take, what causes really call to them. Yeah,
yeah,
I love that.
absolutely. Yeah. And then our 12th house, Aquarius in the 12th house, I think you might need to go hunker down in like a dream place where you're just writing down your dreams constantly as they're coming to you, or meditating constantly, because there is so much download happening in that space if you're a Pisces rising. I just think in general, there's so many reasons for the Pisces rising people. It's feels like a massively spiritual liberation time for the Pisces risings, or just anybody who has the strong Aquarius Pisces combination somewhere in their
Mm.
chart, because there's just so much information, but it feels like where Aquarius is like the logical side of it, and maybe the visual side of it, like more of the details and the tangible, the Pisces is the feeling tone or the mood underneath it, or the capacity to integrate it all. So putting all of that together, I feel like there could be some very profound answers available, and perhaps even that sense of channeling. So you could take this as, oh, this weekend I'm going to do that with this Mercury Sun conjunction and just make some space for that. Or just pay attention to dreams, pay attention to what is coming through the subconscious. But then I think also in a general sense for this entire year and a half with the North Node in Pisces, there's something that really wants to come through. And this is a fun fact that I learned about the North Node and the South Node in Vedic astrology, which is maybe a fun way to tie it all back. So they are one being, Rahu and Ketu, one being that had his head cut off because he was naughty, overzealous being who wanted to partake in the nectar of the gods with all of the other deities, but he snuck in. He wasn't supposed to have that nectar. And so his punishment was to be beheaded. And so the North Node, Rahu, is like the head of the dragon's tail, or the head of the dragon. And then the South Node is like the body, has no head, is not
Mm-hmm.
seeing anything. And we often call that the dragon's tail, but together they are one being of spiritual liberation. One of them, who's just ahead, is helping us to connect with desire, and what is it that we really want, and what's expanding. So because of that, where the North Node is, we have like an excess of energy. Like there's just a lot of energy, and there's even potentially illusion associated with it. And then you put that with the frequency of Pisces, you can only imagine there's a lot happening. And then on the other side, there is like no desire, really, because he doesn't have a head. Um, he's actually trying to liberate us out of the material illusion. So you combine them and you've got this axis of spiritual liberation. So that is a whole other talk all in itself, but especially the people who have the north and south node activated, I think that's another really big emphasis at this time because we just had that shift. So we're
Right.
getting used to these like new ways of being with our desired nature and being with perhaps our renunciation, and things are changing a lot in that way as well.
Yes, I love that. And I'm having a workshop on Sunday, free workshop about the lunar nodes and what you can be looking for and trying to bring in a more spiritual component. I do a lot of mundane astrology, but it's so interesting that you brought up that about Rahu and Ketu because the new moon in Aquarius was conjunct the asteroid Icarus, who flew too close to the
Mm.
sun and then fell and crashed into the sea. And we saw this devastatingly with the plane crash. But, well, the first one of several. But anyway, yeah, there's some people who've been flying too close to the sun that will see, some stuff pop around the full moon. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we are here for some fascinating times. I believe we all signed up to be here alive right now. We knew that we would be activated by all of these Aquarian transmissions. So I think it's just that, getting ready and engaging and participating with it all in the way that's most authentic to us. That's really
Hmm.
the invitation.
I think I love that. Absolutely. Ah, well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. This has been so fascinating. I've learned so much more about Imbolc. Like I knew it was 15 Aquarius, but not much deeper. And this was really, really great. Oh, Private Frenzy loves your eyes. Yes, we
Oh.
found out Nura is a Taurus rising with Venus and Scorpio. So those mysterious eyes are right on.
Oh, thank
Astrology is literal. And let me see if there's anything else that's anyone said. Yeah. Okay. I think we got everything. Ah.
I love the reference to the remembering dreams,
Ah.
and we just have to do that to the best we can. I write down all of the dreams, and then I tend to go over them maybe once a month, kind of depending on how I'm feeling. Maybe if there's a moon in Pisces, or just a day where I'm feeling like things are really integrating nicely, I'll kind of go through and see if there's any patterns that I can track through the dreams, and they're usually like stranger than fiction. You can't make these things up. So I think it's really important to look at that because I think it's one of those conduits, where we get that direct connection.
I love that. Absolutely. So tell everybody again how they can find you and anything else you want to share.
Okay, I'm trying to make it easy. Everything's Nura Rachelle. So nurarachelle.com is my website. I do readings and have a course and do coaching there as well. And then I'm on Instagram at Nura Rachelle, and I post a lot of different little tidbits of learning, and I think there's more things happening in the works. I'm one of those people with Pluto in the 10th house and learning Vedic astrology. So, there's just always new things coming out. So stay tuned. One thing I am currently really loving, and I'm hoping to offer more of, because I do this with my coaching clients, but are co-working spaces where we're just tuning into the transits and really seeing, okay, how can we let them support whatever projects we're working on, but
Mm.
not letting it be just information that's coming in, but actually sitting down and like doing our work together or applying it together. So whether you're writing a book or working on a painting, or just, want some people to hang out with while you're working, that's something that I'm going to be doing a lot more this year. So stay tuned for that if that's something you're interested in.
I absolutely love that. And oh, tell us, where are you studying Vedic?
So there are quite a few places. I've got some different individual mentors,
Okay.
and yeah, but I would be happy if anybody's curious and wants to know more, I can send emails and things like that.
Okay, so people can reach out to you if they're wanting to learn more. And are you going to Norwalk this year?
I am still in the midst of everything. It's such a fun time of balancing work and home. I have also an almost 9-year-old daughter who's on the dance team, so she's got a whole bunch of dance competitions. So
Uh,
I'm kind of like also doing mom world things as well. So I'm undecided as of yet on Norwalk, but we'll
okay.
see.
Well, we're having another OPA retreat in October, so in Salt Lake
Oh,
City. So maybe you can think
amazing.
about that
Oh,
too.
good to
Yeah,
know.
'cause
I really
that's
loved
where
it
we
last time.
met each other in person. It's so important to network and meet people, and you learn so much and different techniques. So it's been such a pleasure connecting with you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I'll make you a collaborator if you want to put this on your wall.
Oh, amazing. I'd love that. Thanks so much. I really loved connecting with you more, Celeste, and I absolutely hope to see you at, OPA or wherever we might meet again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Take good care, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.